Hi everyone! I hope you're all excited and ready to go back to school this year. Going back to school this year in particular is going to be quite different from all of our previous years with everything being online, so you all probably have tons of questions about what it's like to go back to school. In this video, we're going to be answering some of your most common questions and concerns about going back to school this fall. We reached out to you in our last video and on our Instagram page to ask if you had any questions about heading back to school this year. I'll be answering some of those questions, but make sure you also stick around to the end to hear from a UBC Okanagan academic advisor about what it'll be like going back to school this year. Our first question is, what would you suggest for students looking to find community and friends in an online classroom setting? I would recommend that you reach out as much as you can. A lot of these new online school platforms have these private chat settings where you can message your classmates individually and ask them if they want to meet up outside of school to work on homework or to study together. And by forming these really strong study groups, you now have a reliable group of people you can reach out to if you ever have any trouble in that class. Once you set up a group session, what you can do is mute your microphone so that way you can all study together but at the same time not be distracting. And if one of you has a question, you can unmute yourselves. The next question is, if a student is struggling, what are some strategies that they can use to get back on the right track? The biggest tip I can recommend for you is to contact your teachers or professors. Your teachers and professors have probably been doing their jobs for several years, so they've probably heard the same concerns from former students and learned some of the tricks that have helped them in the past and also adapted their teaching in a way to help those students in particular. You also want to make sure that you're taking a step back from focusing on those nitty-gritty details and looking at the overall syllabus of the course. What exactly is it that your professor wants you to learn from this course, and what exactly is on that syllabus to help you learn those things? You want to look for very specific things that your teacher or professor keeps going back to. What I really like to do is to make a task list of everything that I want to get done in that day. The way I do this is by using SMART goals. So the S stands for specific, the M stands for measurable, the A stands for attainable, the R stands for realistic, and the T stands for time-based. You also might want to try setting specific times that you want to be working on that course. For example, if you know that you're going to be extremely busy in that course for a particular week because you want to study for a midterm, you want to make sure you're blocking off enough time to study for those courses. Something I really like to do every single day is to stop working at 9 o'clock. The reason why I do this is to make sure that my brain is nice and refreshed for the next day and I'm not burnt out, because once I get burnt out, I will carry that burden with me for the next couple of weeks and I won't be productive at all and I'll just keep falling behind. So I want to make sure that I rest my brain from 9 to 11 so that way I can just relax and de-stress and not worry about what I have to get done for school the next day. This of course only works if you are actually done your tasks, so you want to make sure that you are setting that specific time that is reasonable for you. If you are a fast worker, you can probably set it even earlier than I do, but I wouldn't recommend trying to set it later than I do just because you do have to go to bed sometime and you don't want to be working until midnight or later. Of course, I do have my days where I am working late occasionally, but I try not to do this for every single day because if I do that every single day, I will be super tired and I will never be able to focus during class. The next question is, what are some ways that you can develop healthy habits while you're studying at home? I am a huge planner, so I absolutely love making schedules. The reason why I have schedules in the first place is because I want to make sure that I'm organized, and this also helps me get to bed at 9 o'clock every single day. Every single week looks slightly different for me, so the only things I really have set in stone are when I have my courses, when I'll be exercising, when I'll be having lunch and dinner, and when I'll be working. Other than that, everything else is pretty flexible and movable. The reason why I don't have these times set in stone is because some weeks I want to focus on a particular course. For example, the first week of school is a lot more relaxed and I don't need to be working on anything that particular week, so I try to have more time to prepare myself for my courses. So I don't like to have time blocks for every single course that I'm in because I find that it's actually really ineffective. Instead, try to make a list of SMART goals that you want to get done that week or that month or that year. That way you can actually have these goals set out into your timetable and you can make your schedule and plan around those things. Another thing I find myself doing a lot when I am at home is now I have free access to an entire pantry of food. So what I tend to do is I tend to just snack a lot mindlessly, and that's really bad for my health because not only am I tired from eating so much food all the time, I'm also gaining a lot of weight. What I want to make sure that I'm doing is that I remove all food from my room and I put it somewhere where it's really inaccessible and I have to make a lot of effort to get it. So that includes not buying any more snacks from my house, and I have to actually run to the grocery store if I'm craving something, or I put the food somewhere like downstairs. And I also really like to chew gum while I am studying. The reason why I do this is because it tricks my brain into thinking that I actually am eating something even though I'm just chewing gum. So it's kind of like a mindless thing that I can do while staying productive. I also always have a water bottle in my room. Most of the time your hunger is just coming from you not having enough water, so drinking a lot of water can actually prevent some of your hunger. And of course we are living in a pandemic right now, so I think it's totally understandable if you're not always on your A game. No one really is. We all have our ups and downs, and especially in quarantine, life is really difficult, and it's perfectly reasonable to be understanding with yourself and to know that if you don't meet a goal one day, it doesn't mean that you can't reset the next day and meet those goals. I like to think of every single day as a fresh start, and even if I'm unproductive for an entire week, I want to make sure I'm at least productive in that month and I'm still achieving those goals that I set out for myself. The next question is, what is the biggest struggle for most students when transitioning to online learning? How do you address this? I find that it's so easy to lose motivation when you're in online school because you're not moving from physical space to physical space with the same students that are on your timetable. All of your friends keep you accountable from moving from space to space and making sure that you're actually attending classes. And in a way, being online doesn't really allow for that because you can just log on in your own time and no one is really there to look out for you because there's so many students on that online screen at all times. So what I like to do is I like to write down my SMART goals. Again, I have these goals for every single week, every single month, and every single semester. And the reason why I do this is it helps me ensure that I actually am staying on top of my work. I also find myself really easily distracted because I'm no longer in a classroom. So at home, I have tons and tons of distractions. What I like to do is I like to remove all those things from me being able to see it and put them somewhere where it's not within reach. I also make sure that I have a completely clear desk when I do study and a clear room. Whenever there's a ton of cluster, I just want to clear it up right away, and having all that in the background really prevents me from being able to study properly, which is really unfortunate. So I want to make sure I minimize all those distractions. I keep my phone out of my room at all times. I don't need it for anything unless I'm just relaxing, and I don't want to relax while I am in the middle of studying because I do tend to spend a lot of time on my phone. As for my laptop, I want to make sure that I am closing all distractions. I block all of the other distraction apps with an app called Cold Turkey. With Cold Turkey, there's no way that you can unblock these distractions once you've set a timer. So once you do it, you're pretty much set and you can't really remove the program at all. The next question is, engineering is famous for having an intense course load. How do you recommend students find balance between school and life? Engineering is one of those programs where it is very challenging, but at the same time, I think it's one of those programs that gives the biggest reward. In engineering, you build really strong connections with your peers because you are all studying together, you all have the same timetable, and eventually you're going to be all working in the workforce together. So it's really important that you build those solid connections at the very beginning. You want to be able to develop a really good time management system in order to stay on top of your courses and your assignments. I like to do that in the form of a schedule, but I also have those SMART goals so I always know what to work on next. I also make sure that I plan a lot of time for myself, whether that be attending the next engineering party or next social event. Engineering is one of those groups that has a really strong community, and that's why there's tons of social events. So I always try to go out to some of those social events because I can meet different engineers, and at the same time I can also have a little bit of fun and relax before I have to get back to studying the next day. Make sure that you are attending those events because they will allow you to meet a lot more people, and they'll also allow you to network outside of your current friend group. That about sums up everything I had to say. So next we will be interviewing with Tamara Winninger, who is a UBC Okanagan academic advisor for the School of Engineering. Are students able to start or join clubs, and will they be able to get assistance and guidance?
Students should be able to join any club that's operating right now. So as far as School of Engineering, if students take a look on our website and look at all the different clubs, they all have different club contact information that they can reach out to see about how they're operating this year. It could vary from club to club. So it's definitely important that if a student is interested in a specific club, that they reach out to them and see how the club plans to operate for this year. As far as starting a club, certainly students can still start clubs. Everything is run through the Students' Union, and there's a ton of information on their website on how many people you need to have in the club, how many signing members you need, which forms to fill out in order to start the club. So all of that information can be found online.
What supports are there for students starting their university career with online school?
So students can look for getting support to start online through a ton of resources that we have on our websites, as well as through their profs. So as I list them off, one of the really great resources that we have right now is through KEEPLEARNING.UBC.CA. So this is a website that has resources designed for students to go through checklists on how to better prepare themselves for online learning, how to mentally prepare themselves. And there's a lot of really great tips and resources in there. There will also be resources in their Canvas account, so students can log into their Canvas. We really recommend that students will reach out to their profs during their office hours. So that's a really great tool to use for students in order to ask questions, as well as making sure they're attending tutorials and being able to speak with other students that are in their class. And then the last thing, the other support I would mention for the Okanagan campuses, we have a really great peer mentoring program. And so that will still be running through the next school year. And students are able to book in time slots where they can get a little bit of tutoring on specific courses or just specific subjects. So those are some really great resources in the beginning with the website, Keep Learning, with your prof's office hours, as well as utilizing the peer mentoring program.
How will universities foster community for incoming students and minimize feelings of isolation due to distance learning?
So students coming into the fall and coming into our winter terms are going to feel like a loss of sense of community right now because we can't meet face to face. But UBC is doing a ton of work in order to foster some engagement for students, in order to build that community, build connections, create study partners and study groups. So one really important tool that students can look at using to meet people in the fall would be to attend any of our orientation sessions that we have going on. So for example, next week we have a big orientation called Create in the Okanagan campus that students can attend, where they can meet a peer mentor, they can meet their fellow students, they can engage within their faculty, as well as answer questions and ask questions about how this year is going to look. Our student engagement office will be running various events. I know a lot of the events will be online, so students have the opportunity to pop in, whether it's after their school hours, to attend different events. And I know if you are in engineering and you're interested in what the Engineering Society is doing, they run a Frosh Week. So one of the examples that they're running is a gaming night. So there will be a lot of social interactions that won't just be panels and Q&As. There'll be also some fun activities like trivia nights. So definitely for students to kind of stay tuned through the Engineering Society, as well as seeing on our website what UBC is doing as far as student engagement.
Will pass-fail credit options be different? And will add-drop deadlines be different this year?
Pass-fail credit options became a unique situation in our winter term 2 last year, where students could opt for pass, credit, fail at the end of the term after seeing their marks. This isn't typically how it's been operated, and that won't be the case moving into our winter term. So students will need to, if they're wanting to explore the pass, credit, fail option, that's something they need to designate basically at the beginning of term before the add-drop deadline. So it's still there for students, but students shouldn't think that, okay, I'm just gonna wait and see what my mark is at the end of the term, because they won't be able to apply for that option once we get to that date. And then as far as the add-drop deadline, so they won't be any different this year. It is updated on the academic calendar, which students can view. So for term 1, the add-drop deadline is September 21st, and for term 2, the add-drop deadline is January 15th.
I hope you found this video helpful and inspiring for back to school this year. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell icon so you never miss a new video from us.